My husband kicked me out of the car with no money and said, "Do whatever you want." But the woman he despised got her revenge. The day my husband left me on the side of Highway 85 with nothing but the clothes on my back, I learned that sometimes the people who vow to love you are the ones who'll hurt you the deepest. "Do whatever you want, Stephanie," Marcus said, his eyes cold as January rain. "I'm done." Then he drove away. Just like that. 15 years of marriage gone in the dust, his tires kicked up as he sped off. I stood there on that shoulder, watching his black SUV disappear around the bend. And I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too numb, too shocked. But somewhere in the back of my mind, a voice whispered, "This didn't just happen. This was planned." Let me back up because you need to understand how I got here. Marcus and I met when I was 23, fresh out of college with a degree in business administration and dreams bigger than the Atlanta skyline. He was charming, ambitious, working in real estate development. He promised me the world wrapped up in a white picket fence, and God help me, I believed him. For the first few years, it was good. We built a life together. I started my own consulting firm. Nothing huge, but steady income that helped us buy our first house. Marcus's career took off. We traveled. We talked about babies. We talked about growing old together on a porch somewhere, watching the sunset. But then his mother moved in. Diane. That woman had a way of making you feel small without ever raising her voice. She'd smile while she cut you down, compliment your dress while mentioning how it would look better on someone thinner. When she moved into our guest room, temporarily after her divorce 3 years ago, I told myself it was Christian charity. I told myself Marcus was just being a good son. I didn't see the web she was spinning. "Stephanie, honey, you really should let Marcus handle the finances," she'd say over breakfast. "Men need to feel like providers, you know." Maybe if you spent less time at work and more time taking care of your husband, he wouldn't look so tired all the time. You know, Marcus's ex-girlfriend Trisha just made partner at her firm. Such an accomplished woman. Drip, drip, drip. Poison in my morning coffee, served with a smile. And Marcus? He started changing, coming home later, being distant. His phone always face down on the table. When I'd ask about his day, he'd give me one-word answers, then disappear into his study where his mother would bring him tea, and they'd talk for hours with the door closed. I started feeling like a stranger in my own home. Then my sister Vanessa came to visit 6 months ago, and things got worse. Vanessa and I used to be close when we were girls, but life pulled us in different directions. She got into some trouble in her 20s, drugs, bad relationships, a arrest record that made family gatherings uncomfortable. But she'd been clean for 4 years, working hard at a retail job, trying to rebuild her life. When she called saying she needed a place to stay for a few weeks while she sorted out her apartment situation, I said yes. Marcus said no. "Your sister is bad news," he told me that night. "She'll bring drama into our house." "She's my family, Marcus. She's trying." "Your family?" He laughed bitter. "My mother is family. Your sister is a leech." Diane, who'd been listening from the hallway, added her voice. "Stephanie, dear, you have such a soft heart, but some people can't be helped." I let Vanessa come anyway. It was one of the few times I stood up to Marcus in those final months, and I watched him ice over like a lake in winter. Vanessa stayed in the basement. She was quiet, respectful, always cleaning up after herself, looking for permanent housing. She'd cook dinner some nights, good soul food that reminded me of our grandmother's kitchen. She made me laugh for the first time in months. But Marcus wouldn't speak to her. He'd walk right past her like she didn't exist. And his mother? Diane treated Vanessa like she was contaminating the furniture just by sitting on it. "How long is she staying?" Diane would ask me, loud enough for Vanessa to hear. "When is she leaving?" Marcus would demand. The tension in that house became so thick you could choke on it. 3 weeks ago, things came to a head. I came home early from a client meeting and heard voices in the kitchen. Marcus, his mother, and someone else. A woman's voice I didn't recognize. I stood in the hallway, listening. "She's holding you back," the woman said. "You deserve so much better than this, Marcus." I know, he replied. I'm just waiting for the right moment. The sister situation is the perfect excuse, Diane added. Everyone will understand why you had to draw a line. My heart stopped. They were talking about me. Once Stephanie is out of the picture, the woman continued, we can finally be together. And with her business in your name, like we discussed, you'll have everything you need for our future. My business, in his name. I'd signed papers months ago, papers Marcus said were just formalities for our joint taxes. Papers his mother had witnessed and notarized, papers I hadn't read carefully enough. I backed away slowly, my mind racing. I went upstairs, locked myself in the bathroom, and threw up. That night, Marcus acted normal, kissed my forehead, asked about my day. While I sat across from him at dinner, knowing he was planning to take everything from me, I needed proof, I needed time. But most of all, I needed to be smart. So I started paying attention. I noticed how Marcus's phone would light up with messages from TR. Trisha, I realized, his accomplished ex-girlfriend. I saw the bank statements he'd left open on his laptop, showing transfers from our joint accounts into one I'd never seen before. I found documents in his study, papers from his mother's notary stamp, legal forms with my forged signature. They were stealing from me. My own husband and his mother, methodically dismantling the life I'd built. And then, 2 days ago, Vanessa made a mistake. She left a load of laundry in the machine overnight. It was nothing, an accident. But Marcus exploded. This is exactly what I was talking about, he shouted. Your sister has no respect for our home. Marcus, it's just laundry. No. He was red-faced, shaking. This ends now, her or me, Stephanie. Choose. Diane stood behind him, arms crossed, watching me like a hawk watches a rabbit. And I knew this was it. This was the excuse they'd been waiting for. I'm not kicking my sister out, I said quietly. She's done nothing wrong. Marcus's face went cold. Fine. Then you can both leave. This is my house, too. Actually, Diane interjected, pulling out papers from seemingly nowhere. According to these property documents, the house is in Marcus's name. Has been for 2 years. My blood turned to ice. More papers I'd signed without reading. More trust betrayed. That's how I ended up in Marcus's car the next morning, being driven God knows where, while he told me he was doing me a favor by giving me one last chance to reconsider. When I wouldn't reconsider, when I told him I'd fight him for everything, he pulled over on Highway 85 and told me to get out. Stay tuned. You won't believe what happens next. Standing on that highway shoulder, watching Marcus drive away, I pulled out my phone. I had 3 missed calls from Vanessa and a text. Steph, where are you? Your mother-in-law just changed all the locks. I grabbed some of your stuff and I'm at a motel. Room 247. Here's the address. My sister. The one Marcus despised. The one he'd used as an excuse to throw me away. She was the only person who had my back. I called an Uber with the last bit of battery on my phone and rode to that motel in silence. The driver kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, probably wondering what kind of story had a woman in business clothes standing alone on a highway at 9 in the morning. When I got to room 247, Vanessa opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes were red from crying. I'm so sorry, she said, pulling me into a hug. This is all because of me. No, I stopped her. This is because of them. They were looking for any excuse. If it wasn't you, they would have found something else. She'd managed to grab a suitcase of my clothes, my laptop, and most importantly, a box of documents I'd kept in my closet. Old business records, emails, contracts. Things I'd saved without even knowing why. We sat on those motel beds, and I told her everything. The conversations I'd overheard, the transfers, the forged documents, Trisha. All of it. We need a lawyer, Vanessa said. We need evidence, I corrected. Real evidence. Because right now it's my word against theirs, and they've been planning this for months. Vanessa looked at me with something like respect. What are you thinking? Here's what people don't understand about betrayal. It teaches you. It shows you how cruel people can be, yes, but it also shows you how clever you need to become to survive. I opened my laptop. I still had access to our joint bank accounts, at least for now. I still had my business email. And most importantly, I still had Marcus's password to our home security system, the cameras he'd installed throughout the house for our safety. Cameras his mother didn't know about because Marcus had installed them himself. Cameras that recorded audio. I logged into the system, scrolled back through weeks of footage, and there it was. Every conversation, every planning session. Marcus and Diane and Trisha sitting in my living room, talking about how they'd take my business, liquidate my assets, divide everything between them. How Trisha would move in once the divorce was final. How they'd paint me as an unstable woman who chose her criminal sister over her devoted husband. "Oh my God," Vanessa whispered, watching over my shoulder. "They recorded themselves committing fraud. I made copies. Multiple copies. Cloud storage, USB drives, email drafts. Then I called the one person I knew who could help me, my old college roommate, Jennifer, who'd gone on to become a family law attorney. "Stephanie," she said when she heard my voice, "I've been trying to reach you for days. Marcus's lawyer filed divorce papers yesterday. They're claiming abandonment and requesting full ownership of marital assets." Of course they were. They were moving fast, trying to lock everything down before I could respond. "Jennifer," I said calmly, "I need you to file an emergency motion. And I'm sending you some videos you need to see." The next 72 hours were a blur of legal motions, restraining orders, and frozen accounts. Jennifer worked like a woman possessed, and by the time Marcus realized what was happening, his assets were locked up tighter than Fort Knox. His mother called me, screaming, "You ungrateful bitch! After everything we did for you?" "Everything you did to me," I corrected. "And it's all on video, Diane. Every word." The line went dead. Marcus tried a different approach. Apologetic texts, voicemails saying he'd made a mistake, that we could work it out. But his lawyer was still filing motions to take my business, which told me everything I needed to know about his sincerity. Trisha, the ex-girlfriend, the accomplished woman, went silent. Turns out being recorded plotting fraud and conspiracy wasn't great for making partner. The divorce took 6 months. My lawyer presented the video evidence, the forged documents, the hidden accounts, all of it. Marcus tried to claim I'd manipulated the footage somehow, but digital forensics proved otherwise. The judge was the older black woman who looked at me over her reading glasses and said, "Mrs. Johnson, I've seen a lot of betrayal in this courtroom, but this case is particularly egregious." Then she looked at Marcus and his mother sitting together in the gallery. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit theft. I'm forwarding these materials to the district attorney. As for the divorce settlement, I got my business back. Full ownership, undisputed. I got half of everything else, including the house that Diane had been so smug about. And because of the fraud, I got a significant additional settlement. Damages for emotional distress and legal fees that cleaned out most of Marcus's hidden accounts. His mother? She moved out of the house the day the judgment came down. Last I heard, she's living in a one-bedroom apartment across town, and Marcus had to sell his SUV to pay his lawyer bills. Trisha? She didn't make partner. Actually, when her firm found out about her involvement in a fraud case, they quietly let her go. But here's the part that matters most. Vanessa. My sister, the one they used as a weapon against me, the one Marcus despised and looked down on. She's living with me now, in the house I kept. We renovated the basement into a proper apartment for her, and she's taking online classes to get her degree. She's thriving, been clean now for 5 years, and she's the best roommate I could ask for. Some nights we sit on the back porch, the porch I once imagined growing old on with Marcus, and we watch the sunset together. We talk about second chances and how the people who count you out are often the ones most surprised when you rise up. "You know what I learned from all this?" I told her one evening, sipping sweet tea and watching the sky turn purple and gold. "What's that?" "That sometimes the person everyone else despises is the only one with the courage to stand by you. That family isn't always blood, and blood isn't always family. That revenge isn't about being cruel. It's about standing up for yourself and making sure the truth comes to light." Vanessa smiled. "That's real talk." "And one more thing," I added. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. I ignored the signs for too long, but when I finally opened my eyes and fought back, I won. Marcus texted me last week. Just 3 words. I miss you. I blocked the number because here's what he'll never understand. You can't miss what you threw away. You can't love what you tried to destroy. And you definitely can't come back to a woman who learned how to stand on her own 2 feet after you left her on the side of the highway. These days, my business is better than ever. I'm consulting with 3 new clients, all women who left difficult marriages and needed help rebuilding their financial lives. I know their stories because I lived one. And every time I help one of them stand back up, I think about that moment on Highway 85. The moment Marcus thought he was abandoning me. The moment I was born again, stronger and wiser. The woman he despised, whether that was me or my sister, it doesn't matter, got her revenge. And honey, it was sweet. Comment below with your thoughts on Stephanie's story. Have you ever had to stand up to betrayal? Like if this story touched your heart or fired you up. Share this with every woman who needs to know she's stronger than she thinks.